And the Orthodox Hebrews drove them out of Israel for this abominable sin of mating with extraterrestrials. They moved to Arcadia in Greece, which they named after a bear goddess. And then they moved to the Ardennes region in France, which they named after another bear goddess. That's B-E-A-R, not B-A-R-E. Although Artemis, whose name means bear in Greek, was a bear goddess and a bear goddess, if you read the Actaeon legend. The descendants of this intermarriage between extraterrestrials from Sirius and ancient Israelites became the Merovingian dynasty, who have superhuman powers and long hair that grows down the back of their neck and down the back of their spine. And the Vatican tried to wipe them all out, but a few of them still survive. And they and their allies make up the Priory of Sion, a secret society devoted to bringing the science of Sirius to Earth when we're ready for it. Now that's a little bit different than the theory in Michael LeMay's book, isn't it? That's another reason I don't claim to tell the truth. I don't know how to find out the truth. I just collect theories and guess which one of them sounds more plausible. So far, neither of these sound very plausible to me. Anyway, there's a church in Stenay, which was one of the capitals of the Merovingian dynasty, which is oriented so that if you stand by the altar and look out the door in the summer, you'll see Sirius framed right in the doorway leading into the church. And de Sade compares this to the Church of Mary Magdalene in Rennes-le-Château, in which the 14 stations of the cross have many oddities which have never been explained. For instance, there's a Scotchman in kilts watching the crucifixion. You will not find this in either the Christian Bible or in any of the Gnostic Bibles. You'll also find some people carrying Jesus out of the tomb in the middle of the night, as if he didn't die at all. They were about to fake a resurrection. And it says over the door, this place is terrible. Well, according to this was built by a priest named Father Saunier in the 1890s. According to de Sade, these 14 stations of the cross contain coded references like Nostradamus that shows that the royal family of France is descended partly from Sirius and possess superhuman powers. And there are hints that we'll have peace in Europe and apparently in the whole world once these superhuman beings are allowed to rule us again, after all the mistakes of the last 2 centuries are undone, and all these democratic follies are put aside, and we accept these superhuman beings who have come here just to help us. And I say, gee, that bullshit sounds familiar. We've never heard that before. We've been hearing that since the Stone Age about various types who have a desire to rule. Oh, we're not humans like you are. We're descended from the sun god. That's what the Aztecs said. That's what the Inca said in Peru. That's what the Hirohito was the last one to claim that, and he was buried. God is dead. Ever since Hirohito was buried, we got no more gods on this planet. He was the last one. Well, no, we still had Rajneesh, didn't we? After Rajneesh was buried, was something we were left on our own. We got to figure it out for ourselves now. Well, maybe another god will pop up somewhere. 73, when Le Ras Fabulous was published, a Swiss journalist named Matthew Pauli published a book called Undercurrents of Political Ambition. And he got interested in the Priory of Sion because he found their newsletter circuit was being distributed through the lodges of the Grande Loge Alpine, the largest Masonic brotherhood in Switzerland. As a matter of fact, the Grande Loge Alpine contains the bankers who own the banks in Zurich and Basel, who pretty much control European finance. And there's as many conspiracy theories about the Grande Loge Alpine over in Europe as there are about the Bohemian Club over here. These are the richest people in Europe, and they belong to the secret Masonic group, the Grande Loge Alpine. Harold Wilson, no relative. He was a prime minister in England back before Thatcher, if anybody can remember a time before Thatcher, way back in the dark ages there in the 70s. Harold Wilson called them the gnomes of Zurich. As far as I know, he was the only one that ever pronounced the G in gnomes. We call them the gnomes of Zurich. He complained that no matter what any government in Europe tried to do, if the gnomes of Zurich didn't like it, they'd stop it one way or another. And as a matter of fact, governments don't act. Governments only react. The bankers make the decisions, and then governments decide how are we going to adjust to this. Government can't do anything unless a bank gives them the money to do it. And if the bank says, we'll give you this much money for building armaments, the government will build armaments because they can't get any money out of the bankers any other way. If the banks say, we don't want you to build armaments anymore, we want you to build highways, they'll build highways. So people will wonder, worry about who's president, whether it's Bush or Quayle or pubic hair or anus or whatever. The important thing is who's running the banks. They're the ones who are making the decisions. Anyway, the Grand Loge Alpina was distributing this literature from the Priory of Sion, which said on the inside of the front cover that it was published by the Committee to Secure the Rights and Liberties of Low-Cost Housing. Matthew Pauli, the Swiss journalist, got interested in the Committee to Secure the Rights and Privileges of Low-Cost Housing because he detected in the Priory of Sion publications that there was something that was not exactly centered on low-cost housing. There seemed to be a strong implication that there were superhuman beings in Europe who were waiting for their turn to take over and solve all of our problems for us. Pauli started investigating, and he found that it was the circuit was not published by the Committee to Secure the Rights and Privileges of Low-Cost Housing. It was published out of the office of the Committee of Public Safety of the de Gaulle government in Paris, which was run by André Malraux, great novelist and art historian, and Pierre Plantaud of St. Clair, who is related to the St. Clairs of Scotland, who have been connected with Masonry since about the 13th century, played a major role in the development of European Masonry. And it turns out that Pierre Plantaud de St. Clair was then the Grand Master of the Priory of Sion. Pauli decided that the Priory of Sion was a conspiracy within the de Gaulle government intended to restore monarchy in France and perhaps establish a Europe-wide empire with one emperor at the top, like Napoleon had tried to do. A year after this book was published, Pauli was shot as a spy in Israel. That must be a coincidence. A French magazine, after these three books came out, a French magazine whose name I don't remember, but you can look it up in Holy Blood, Holy Grail, they did their own study of the Priory of Sion, and they claimed that Archbishop Lefebvre was the head of it. Now, Archbishop Lefebvre was the guy who for about 20 years was going around denouncing the Vatican, claiming the Vatican had been taken over by Freemasons and Satanists during the reign of Pope John the 23rd, and that the Catholic Church was now totally corrupted by Masonic and Satanic influences, and his followers often added to that, he's the man who should be Pope. He never said that himself explicitly, but that's a strong feature in all propaganda put out by Lefebvre groups. In 1981 appeared Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which at last revealed the actual truth. The Priory of Sion is a medieval chivalric order devoted to protecting the descendants of the Merovingian dynasty. And the reason they are being protected against the continuous attempts of the Vatican to get rid of them all is not that they are descended from people from Sirius, but that they are descended from Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. Jesus and Mary Magdalene had a son named Merovee who emigrated to France, and the Merovingian dynasty is descended from him. And as a matter of fact, Holy Blood, Holy Grail gives you genealogies of all sorts of people descended from Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, including Otto von Habsburg. Now, Otto von Habsburg was one of the founders of the Bilderbergers. I trust you're paying close attention at this point. It gets a bit hairy around here.